All right, welcome back. This is Math with Business Applications. I am your instructor, Amy Fuchsteiner. We are still working on Unit 6. In fact, tonight we are going to work on Part 2 of Simple Interest and Notes, Chapter 10, Section 2. This is the partial payment before maturity. So we're going to be calculating loans that involve a partial payment before the due date of the loan. Once again, this is Chapter 10, Section 2. This is Part 2 of that section. And let's get to the goals. So our goals for this particular section are short and sweet. The problems themselves are a little bit long and confusing. So I will do what I can to help. What is a partial payment before maturity? What do I mean when I say that? Who uses it and when? And we're going to use what's known as the US rule to calculate the maturity value, whether they're using one partial payment or two partial payments. All right, so here we go. The partial payment of a loan is something that occurs in this sort of situation. Let's say Aisha has taken out a simple interest loan of $400,000 at 12% interest. She wants to rent some warehouse space for about 90 days. She's going to use it to store her cosmetics line in order to prep it for shipping before its launch. So she needs a place to store it, and she needs a place to get it ready for when she sends it out to the customers. Now, 30 days into this loan, so she's taken out the loan, she's rented the space. It's 30 days in. She gets a payment of $500,000 for advanced orders on the product that she's going to be shipping out in another 60 or so days. So she needs to make a decision on how she wants to allocate that $500,000. One of the options she has is to take a part of it, in this scenario, half of it, and she's going to put it towards the loan that she took out to pay for the warehouse space and everything that goes along with this. This is known as a partial payment of the loan. She's going to partially pay off the loan before its actual due date. It's not due for another 60-ish days, but she's going to take some of that money and at least put a down payment on it. Some questions for you. We don't necessarily go into all of this in this class because they are business decisions, and I am a math instructor, so I'm here to help you with the math. But I do feel like you need some foundation as to why in the world anybody would do this. So, do you think this is a smart move? She's still got 60 days on her loan. Is it smart for her to pay off that loan now, all or some of it? Do you think if she does that, it could hurt her business? Is taking some of that money, some of that equity, and paying off a portion of her loan, does that use her money in the wrong way? Could it be helpful? Why might someone take that money and put it towards a loan? What would that do to her maturity value? If she was able to pay off part of that loan, what would that do to her eventual or remaining maturity level? Now, I'm not going to answer all of these questions today. The smart move and will it hurt their business, those are business decisions that I'm not qualified to teach you about. I'm just going to ask you to consider it. How could it help her business? Well, I can tell you how it could help, and I can help you calculate the new maturity value. Those are the two things I can't do. There's all kinds of stuff I'm just not knowledgeable enough to give you, but there are scenarios in there. All right, so what we're going to be doing is working with the idea of this partial payment in the US rule. It is literally called the US rule. And the US rule says that in the case of a loan, the interest must be paid first. So basically, the bank takes its money before anyone else gets theirs. Pay the bank first, okay? So when we go through this process, there are 5 basic steps. We are going to find the interest due on the first partial payment. We're going to subtract that from the payment amount. This is known as the amount that's credited to the account. We'll apply that payment to the principal to reduce the amount that they owe. If there is a second partial payment, we'll do the whole thing again, right? We'll figure out how much interest has accrued in that time. We'll take it away from the payment, and then we'll take the remaining balance away from the principal. This keeps happening until the last payment, in which case we still find the interest, but in the last step we have to add it because it's a final payment. So we'll be adding it in. Now, this first example, I have categorized things and I'm going to walk you through it. We're going to go kind of slow. There's a lot to this process. So my recommendation is if you do not have a paper and pencil, that you pause this video and go get one, because you are probably going to need to write this down. And when it comes time for the homework and the testing, you're going to want a physical example to look at. Okay? Got everything? All right, here we go. So Ben is going to borrow $10,000 at 7% interest for 120 days. We haven't said why. On day 30, he's going to make a partial payment of $2,000, and on day 90, he makes a partial payment of $5,000. No judgments on where those monies came from. We just know that on day 30, he's got $2,000 to apply to the loan, and on day 90, he's got $5,000. What is the maturity value after these partial payments? So what's the remaining balance, essentially, after they make these partial payments? So here we go. The loan date is the first day of the loan. I think for several reasons, including because I know what questions they ask about this, it's a good idea to figure out what the maturity value of this loan would be if there weren't any partial payments. In other words, if he just waited the 120 days to pay it, how much would he owe? Well, we would calculate the interest on that. That's $10,000 at 7% for 120 days out of 360. Keeping in mind, it doesn't say anything about ordinary or exact interest, so our default position would be the ordinary interest. This gives us interest of $233.33. The maturity value is the principal of $10,000 plus the interest. So our maturity value would be $10,233.33. This maturity value, once again, is without any partial payments. All right? The idea here, the larger idea, is that when you make a partial payment, you decrease the amount of interest you will owe, because when you reduce the principal, you reduce the interest. Now, that means that our maturity value, or the amount that we pay with partial payments, the total of that should be less than any maturity value without them. All right? So now we know what the original amount would be on the loan. Let's go ahead and calculate the partial payments. Our first partial payment is made on day 30. Now, for the first 30 days of the loan, it is accruing interest on all $10,000. So we're going to figure out how much interest had accumulated in the first 30 days. And in those first 30 days, it's $10,000 that we're paying money on. So the first 30 days of interest, according to the U.S. bank rule, will have to be taken off of the payment. So that amount of interest is $10,000 at 7% for 30 days out of 360. Remember, we're paying interest on the whole $10,000 because in the beginning, it's $10,000 we owe. So if I calculate that out, I get $58.33. That's $10,000 times 0.07 times 30 out of 360. That means that in the $2,000 payment, we have to take off the $58.33 because we're not going to get credit for paying that amount. The bank is going to take their interest first. So that's the U.S. rule. The bank takes the interest first. So we're going to take that $5,833 off of the $2,000, meaning $1,941.67 is what's credited to the account. $1,941.67 can be subtracted from the $10,000 we owe, or Ben owes, leaving $8,058.33. Okay? As a quick aside, in addition to doing it this way, you could have added the $5,833 to the $10,000 and then subtracted the $2,000 off, and you would have gotten the same answer. Right? So it doesn't matter which way you do it. If you understand that way better, that's fine. But I am trying to be consistent with what that textbook does. So I'm going to do the subtract off first and then the subtract off the remaining. Okay? All right. Now, first partial payment accounted for. The amount that they owe is $8,058.33. That's how much they owe. On day 90, they're going to make an additional payment of $5,000. Now, here's the thing. On day 90, interest has accrued from day 30, but for those days from 30 to 90, which is 60 days, the interest is only accruing on the new balance of $8,058.33. So I can do interest as principal times rate times time, but because they paid down that amount, the principal is now just the $8,058.33. So interest is $8,058.33 times the 7% times 60 out of 360. Why again is it 60 out of 360? Because we made a payment at 30 days, and at 30 days they paid the interest on the first 30 days. I don't want to get charged for that interest again, so they only owe interest on the days between 30 and 90. There's 60 days between 30 and 90. So our time in this part of the loan is 60 over 360. If I multiply that out, I get $94.01, which means $94.01 is going to be subtracted off of the payment of $5,000, leaving $4,905.99. So the account will be credited $4,905.99. That amount is going to be subtracted from the previous balance of $8,058.33. So 8058.33 minus the $4,905.99 gives us $3,152.34. Now, that's the current balance. They still owe $3,152.34. So from now until the end of the loan, so from day 90 to the end of the loan at day 120, right? 120 days, yep. So from day 90 to day 120 is 30 days. And for those 30 days, we're going to owe interest on the $3,152.34. Only on those 30 days. So our interest here is $3,152.34 times 7% times 30 out of 360. This gives us interest of $18.39. Now, this interest is going to be applied to the final payment. We owe a balance of $3152.34, so we're going to add $18.39, giving us the edited maturity value of $3,170.73. And that's going to be the maturity value after the partial payments, $3,170.73. Was a lot to take in. All right, I have, I think, 3 more examples, 2 or 3, I can't remember. I have 2 or 3 more examples of this, 2 more for sure. And then at the end of this, there is a worksheet that is optional for you to do so that you're sure you've got it down before we get to the assignment. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to take about 10-ish minutes, I think, and go through the next two examples. And yeah, we'll see you at the end of this. Okay, we'll get you through to the end. Pam borrowed $20,000 at 6.5% interest for 150 days. On day 90, she makes a partial payment of $12,000. So what is the maturity value of the loan? And when I'm asking that, I'm asking you about initially the maturity value of this loan. What would it be? Without any partial payments, what would the maturity value of the loan be? Well, maturity value is a formula. Maturity value is P times 1 plus RT. The principal is $20,000. The interest rate, or R, is 6.5%. We'll put that in as a decimal. The time of the loan is 150 days out of 360. We've done this already. This is a review of a formula we've already dealt with. So if we put this in, we've got $20,000 times 1 plus 0.065 times 150 over 360, which should work out to be $20,514.666667, or $20,514.67, right? Now, what is the maturity value after they make the partial payments? So same process, slightly abbreviated as we just went through. Partial payment number 1 occurs on day 90. So we're going to take the interest of $20,000 at 6.5% in the first 90 days. This turns out to be $325. We're going to subtract that interest from the payment of $12,000 because the bank is going to take their money first. That's the U.S. rule. The bank takes their cut first. So yes, you've got $12,000 to pay, and the bank says, great, but we're going to take off $325. That's going to leave you an account that's credited $11,675. So now we can take the $20,000 and subtract the $11,665. That leaves us with a new balance of $8,325. There's not a second partial payment. This is an example with only one partial payment. So with that balance of $8,325, we can go straight to the new maturity value. Since that payment was on day 90, we have 60 days left to the the due date of the loan. All right. So our interest is going to be on our balance forward, which is the $83.25 at 6.5% for the remaining 60 days out of 360. So I is $83.25 times the 0.065 times 60 over 360, or $90.19. Since I'm not making an additional payment, this is my final payment. This is what I will owe at maturity. All of that interest is going to be added into the balance. So that gets me $83.25 plus the $90.19 for $8,415.19. Fantastic. Now, the question becomes, was this worth it? How much money did Pam save in interest? We know that the total amount paid into this account was the initial payment of $12,000 and then the maturity value of $8,415.19. This is a grand total that Pam actually paid of $20,415.19. We know that Pam would have had to pay $20,514.67. That's the original maturity value if she hadn't made a partial payment. So if I subtract off the total she did pay in, I get a difference of $126.48. So in the end, what did Pam save? $126.48. Does that seem worth it? Well, maybe, maybe not. I mean, $126.48 takes a couple people out to dinner with drinks, right? If that's your business, maybe that's important. But I think it's more important to look at this as an opportunity. And if this happens several times in a year, you could really save some nice cash, right? Third example, I guess it's the third example. Richie Rich borrowed $5,000 at 8% ordinary interest for 100 days. On day 30, he makes a partial payment of $2,000, and on day 65, he makes another partial payment of $2,000. All right. Same process. What's the maturity value of the loan? That's the total amount of money that Richie Rich will owe at the end of this loan if he doesn't make any partial payments. So that's going to be 5,000 times 1 plus 0.08 times 100 over 360, or $5,111 with a repeating 1, which is $5,111.11. If we look at the maturity value of the loan after he makes partial payments, it's worth noting that Richie makes a partial payment on day 30 and a partial payment on day 65. So there's not one, but two partial payments. In the first partial payment, that occurs on day 30. So it's a $2,000 payment on day 30. They owe interest on all $5,000. During those first 30 days, they will accrue interest on $5,000 times the 0.08 times 30 out of 360. Turns out this is $33.33. That interest will be subtracted from the payment of $2,000 because the bank is going to take their interest first. So $2,000 minus $33.33 is $1,966.67. So the account will be credited $1,966.67. That means that that amount will be subtracted from the $5,000, the initial amount of the loan, leaving $3,033.33. That's after the first partial payment. As we go into the second partial payment, because this one does have a second partial payment on day 65. This partial payment, number 2, that should be a 2 there, I'll have to fix that, is on day 65. So in the next time frame, we're going from day 30, where we now have a balance of $3,033.33, to day 65. That's a time period of 35 days. So we're going to accrue interest over those 35 days, but the base has been depleted or knocked down to just $3,033.33. So interest would be the $3,033.33 times 0.08 times 35 out of 360. This gives us interest of $23.59. That interest will come off of the next partial payment. This was a partial payment of $2,000 again. So $2,000 minus that $23.59 is $1,976.41. That's going to be the amount that is credited to the account. So what's the balance on the account? $3,033.33. From there, we're going to subtract the $1,976.41. This will leave us $1,056.92. Since we're only doing 1 or 2 partial payments, this is now the amount that's going to be carried to the end. We're on day 65, and the loan is going to day 100. So we only have 35 days left in the loan. Our newest maturity value will be based on the balance of $1,056.92 at an interest rate of 8% for the remaining 35 days left on the loan. This is interest of $8.22. So when Richie Rich goes to make his final payment, he owes the $1,056.92 and an additional $8.22. This is a maturity value of $1,065.14. All right, so the question is, how much money did Richie save in interest? We know that the total amount that Richie paid is the $2,000 plus another $2,000 in the second payment, plus then the remaining balance for the maturity, which is $1,065.14. So Richie paid a total of $5,065.14. His savings would be the amount he would have paid if he just waited to the end, or the $511.11, minus the amount he actually did pay, or the $5,065.14. This gives him a savings of $45.97. It's interesting that in some cases the savings is this small, less than $50, less than 50 bucks. But in other cases, the savings can be much more significant. Final example. Pawpaw's Pet Shop borrowed $60,000 at 12% ordinary interest on March 15th for 60 days. On day 20, Pawpaws makes a partial payment of $16,000, and 25 days later, they make a second partial payment of $24,000. So we're going to first find the maturity value of this loan, and we're going to calculate when this loan is due. Maturity value, if you recall, is the principal times 1 plus the rate times time. This is 60,000 times 1 plus 0.12 times 60 over 360 because it's a 60-day loan. This is $61,200. So the maturity value of this loan is $61,200. We know that the loan date is March 15th and that they have 60 days to pay. So 60 days from March 15th, which if you look it up is day 74. So day 74 plus day 60 is day 134. Reverse lookup on the days in the year chart gives you May 14th. If we're going to do this my way, I do March 15th plus 60 days is March 75th. March 75th does not exist. So I subtract 31 days from March for March, getting us April. Technically, it's going to be April 44th. And since there are 30 days in April, I subtract 30, leaving me with May 14th. I know. All right. What's the maturity value of the loan after the partial payment? There are 2 partial payments. So if you're doing this on paper, maybe you make 3 columns because you'll need the first partial payment, the second partial payment, and then the maturity value. And the first partial payment is on day 20. Since the loan is $60,000, the interest that accrues in the first 20 days will be 12% on the initial $60,000. This is interest of $400. The bank always takes its money first. That's the U.S. rule. So 16,000 minus 400 is 15,600, and the account will be credited 15,600. So that amount is subtracted from the $60,000 that's owed, giving us a balance forward of $44,400. Now, before the second payment, interest is going to accrue, but on the newer reduced balance of $44,400. How many days there are between the first and the second payment are our time. And in the word problem in this case, they tell you that it's 25 days later. So I know the number of days in the second payment. Interest would be $44,400 at 12% for 25 days out of 360. This is $370. That $370 comes off of the $24,000 payment, giving us $23,630 as the amount credited to the account. Our balance forward then is our previous balance, the $44,400 minus the $23,630 or $20,770. Since there are no additional payments, the final amount of time or the amount of time until the due date of the loan, which will go from day 45 to day 60, 15 days. Since there are 15 days left in the loan, we want our interest to be the $20,770 at 12% for the remaining 15 days. This is $103.85. That amount will be added into our final payment, giving us a total maturity value of $20,873.85. The one question that I have asked several times and will ask again is how much money did the pet shop save in interest? We know that the pet shop paid $16,000 the first time through, and $24,000 the second early payment, and then a final payment of $20,873.85. So altogether, the total paid is $60,873.85. The savings would be the difference between the initial amount of the maturity value, or $61,200, minus the amount they actually paid, the $60,873.85, or $326.15. So the savings would be the $326.15. That's it for today. It's enough, right? It's enough. What do you mean that's it? It's enough. So what is your partial payment before maturity? Can you explain to somebody else what that is? Do you know when to use it and who might use it? Do you have an idea? Can you use the U.S. rule to calculate the maturity value when someone has one partial payment or two partial payments? Those are our goals. Do you feel fairly confident in them? There is extra practice in your e-textbook, Chapter 10, Section 2. I didn't look it over super well, but I believe it's just problem 38. So they've only given you one practice example, and I feel like that's not enough. So in the folder, in the assignment folder on Blackboard, you will find that there is an additional 3 problems for you to practice. It is a worksheet. I have left the blank worksheet there, and there will be a key as well. The graded assignment that you have on this section is on WebAssign. It is Chapter 10, Section 2 with PPC in parentheses for a partial payment plan. All right? If you have any questions on anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, to your embedded support, the Math Center, and any tutoring you may have available to you. We all want you to do well, and we are all here to help. Thank you.